So, a light wipe of molybdenum paste through the centre of the film release button. Put that on its post, check that it moves smoothly, it seems to. Put the shutter release button in place. Now the top cover, which I haven't cleaned yet, I'll just have a quick look at this, make sure it's not ridiculously filthy. It's just normally filthy. Just pop that loosely in place. I want to see if the frame counter moves correctly. Well, it does, but it's not moving to the middle of the number. So let's have a look at that. I'll wind that screw in a bit and check what's happening. That's better. Okay, so that was quite a slight adjustment. That's good. Okay, I can put the camera body to one side while I deal with this top cover. Now, with the Retina IIIC cameras, there's a limited amount of disassembly that you can do in order to clean the top cover. So I can start by removing the accessory shoe. All that crunchy sound, that's sand in the slot of the screw head. And I can remove the windows here and here. These are exceptionally filthy pieces of glass. And the rest I've pretty much got to clean in place. I'm not seeing any horrors there. It's missing the rubber pad that should be fitted here that holds down the exposure meter. That must have been lost in the previous service. The top of the finder here has got quite a marked bruise in it. It's like an abrasion because it doesn't seem to deform this section underneath it much, but there's a whole piece of aluminium effectively buffed off there. And this is just generally very unpleasant looking. Right. I'll start cleaning this with some naphtha and cotton buds. I may well choose to clean that with hot water and detergent yet, depending on how well it cleans up or otherwise. The disadvantage of cleaning a top cover like this with hot water and dishwashing detergent is that there's a lot of surfaces here where moisture could get in underneath, and it can be difficult to dry it out thoroughly afterwards. Where you have a simple top cover where there are no sort of crevices and hidden spots, yes, then cleaning the top with detergent and hot water is a very, very effective way of getting a nice, clean chrome top. They come up looking very, very good. This is mostly, I'd say, the surface, because it's a satin chrome, and satin chrome suffers from bright marks where it's been scratched or otherwise thumped. And this is just a massive bright marks, shiny lines showing all the previous scars and incidents. And what's it like on the top itself? Yeah, there's a patch here, a very dull patch. That'll be corrosion. Something has affected that particular spot. It could be as simple as someone with something on their hands. Salt water comes to mind, but it might not have been salt water. Just picking the camera up and you end up with a localised spot that certainly looked about the size of a thumbprint, and that would do it. With the exposure meter effectively being useless, this camera will need to be used with a handheld meter. The Sunny 16 rule, of course, is a good option, or a light meter app on a cell phone is a very convenient option. They work pretty good, and of course most of us these days are paired with a cell phone. It never goes anywhere without us, and we never go anywhere without it. Sort of like a symbiotic relationship. Just cleaning this frame counter stuff here. Really, I just want to make sure there's no sand or grit or anything under there, and any sticky old grease that I can clean out's a bonus. That, unfortunately, is probably as pretty as it's going to get. Alright, a little bit more work. And I'll start cleaning the glass. We're dealing with pieces of glass like this, I mean that's just disgusting. It's probably not even worth starting with glass cleaning. I'm just going to take those through to the kitchen, give them hot water, dishwashing detergent, and that should remove all that filth off there. Then I'll come back and finish them up with glass cleaner if required. Well, they look a little bit better. I can see through them now. I'm going to give them a final clean with some glass cleaner. And here I'm using a well laundered cotton handkerchief. You want a well worn out one. The ones with holes in them that your wife is always threatening to throw away. Nice soft cotton cloth. Makes an ideal thing for cleaning glass like this. And that dirty, one time dirty window that you could hardly see through is nice and clean now. That's a great result. I'll pop that to one side and do its mate. Oh yeah, it's good, nice and sparkly. And the top cover apart from that, let's have a quick look at that. course the eyepiece lens here needs to be done. That's just a plain piece of glass. I'm just using glass cleaner on a cotton bud, and I'm just gently cleaning this. It's actually come up pretty well, and I'll do the inside of it in much the same fashion. And of course we've got no glass in at the front here, so I can bring my cotton bud in directly from the front. It's pretty good. There's a bit of a smear just around the edge there of the mask. See if I can see the back of that. That's good. And the meter needle window, even though seeing through that's hardly going to be a necessary feature, we better have that nice and clean anyway. And the inside of the same. Well, it's better, but I wouldn't say it was wonderful. But it will have to do. Get these windows back in place. These are always a bit fiddly to get seated correctly. They slide out considerably easier than they slide in. And a bit crooked. As a result, it doesn't want to seat. Start again with that one. Oh well, at least we've got one of them down in place. See if I can deal with its mate. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so we have our nice clean viewfinder windows. So clean you can't even see it's got glass in it. I'll pop the top on that camera body now, I think. Well, no, I've got to put that rubber pad in, don't I? I'll do that first then. I'll just clean this accessory shoe and put that in place. There's not much exciting to see there because all I've got to do is go over this with a bit of naphtha, make sure I get all the grease and dirt off it, and unusually it's not one of the most dirty parts of the camera. The shoe is comparatively square. That'll be fine. One of those screws, the slot was absolutely chocker with sand. That one. And I'll just give those screw heads a bit of a buff to remove loose dust and dirt. That's it. Well, I'll go and cut a rubber pad to go around the corner there. It's just a little crescent shaped piece which is glued into the top cover at this point. And what that does is it holds the meter here down firmly into place, because otherwise the meter would just tend to flap about, which this one doubtless has been doing. Well, I've got some sticky back foam here. It's quite a firm foam, but that'll do the job nicely. If I squeeze that into position, that should hold the meter in place. Leastways, that's the theory. Well, I'm sure this isn't the last time I'm going to have this top off, so I'm not going to be too picky about anything here. We'll just get this seated, get that top cover on, and get the screws in on the top cover. Almost certainly once I've serviced the shutter and put that back in place, I'm going to have to come back and adjust the shutter release. So there's no point putting the meter dial or the rewind on at this stage. But it is useful to have the top cover on because it keeps everything neat and clean, and it makes it much easier for testing the shutter when I get to that point. It's making sure that both the shutter release button and the film release button move smoothly. That's good. Well, at this stage I think I can put the leatherette on the base of the camera. At least tidy that part up. I'll just get this advance lever off. Give the base of the camera here a quick wipe with naphtha to make sure there's no grease spots on it. So the adhesive will do its job. And here I've got the leatherette all clean and ready to go back. It's been sitting, being pressed between two pieces of wood overnight, so it's remained nice and flat. So it had a certain tendency to curl up at the edges. You've got to get a nice even coat of adhesive on here. I don't want it running down over the sides, but I need good cover right to the edges. This is the neatest way to do it. Apply some adhesive to a piece of paper and then transfer it to the leatherette using a toothpick. Allows you to get just the right amount of adhesive to just the right places. A brush would work, but glue brushes, unless they're sitting in a jar of solvent their entire life, tend to be a nuisance to work with for small things like this. Okay, let's get this in place, and the leatherette's a bit broken up around that back catch release, but I think that'll press down into place regardless. There's almost no leatherette around the end of that button, so it's prone to splitting there. Just making sure I get this firmly fitted onto that base plate. Leatherettes tend to shrink, so they don't want to fit neatly around a raised boss like this. They tend to pull away. Well, that looks good. Get my advance lever back in place. Now, as is par for the course, the video camera is telling me the battery is tired and wants attention. So don't be at all surprised if the recording suddenly cuts off and I'm doing something different when you next see me. Right, this piece of leatherette, the patch for the advance lever, I'll get that on. I'm doing that in exactly the same way. Apply some adhesive to the paper, transfer that to the leatherette patch. Now, it didn't appear to me that this leatherette on the base of the camera had ever been off before. Which means that what service the camera had had at previous occasions didn't involve a complete strip down. That looks good. See if I can get this back catch cover in place. Of course, the spring for this is a little bit odd shaped, so it may not stay in here firmly for me while I'm trying to get this in place. Let's try. May have succeeded. Yes, success. Okay, so now we've got all the leatherettes in place and the camera's looking somewhat tidier for it. Now I can change that battery and start work on this lens and shutter assembly, which doesn't look much happier than the camera body did.